Think about the clothes we wear today. Most of them are built to fail. Fast fashion floods our world with fabrics that fade, tear, and lose shape after just a few washes. They're cheap, disposable, and utterly forgettable. But imagine stepping back almost 1,000 years to the High Middle Ages in Europe. Between 1000 and 1400 AD, artisans crafted textiles so resilient, so rich in character, that even with our machines today, we can't quite match them. And it's not because they had some secret chemical or machine. Everything that made their fabrics exceptional came from human skill, patience, and a profound understanding of the material itself. Today, we're going to live this process, not just read about it. From a handful of greasy, raw fleece to a finished hand-woven cloth, we'll follow the exact steps that medieval artisans used. But this is more than just making fabric. It's about stepping into a mindset that industrial production has almost completely erased. It's about reconnecting with the material, understanding its quirks, and learning the patience that turns raw fiber into a lasting object. The journey starts with the fiber itself. Back then, there was no factory yarn. Every thread began as raw material, and knowing your fiber was the foundation of everything. The three fibers that dominated medieval Europe were wool, linen, and silk. Each had its place. Wool was the workhorse, especially in England, Flanders, and northern France. Long, strong, and warm, it was the backbone of the medieval economy. But not all wool is the same. The fleece from English Cotswold sheep was prized for its length and durability, while Spanish merino offered incredibly soft, fine fibers. Once a fleece was sheared and washed in streams or wooden tubs, the next step was deciding whether to card or comb it. Carding was a rougher process, producing a light, airy woolen yarn, perfect for thick cloaks that could stand up to freezing northern winters. Combing, on the other hand, aligned the long fibers, removing the shorter, weaker strands. This created a smooth, strong thread called worsted yarn, used for fine garments and fitted hose. Each technique influenced the fabric's character, its warmth, its drape, and its strength. Linen was different. It wasn't the everyman's fiber. It was a labor of love and a symbol of purity. Flax plants had to be carefully harvested and processed through retting, breaking, scutching, and heckling to produce long, silky fibers. Every step took weeks, sometimes months, and demanded a meticulous hand. Silk, by contrast, was the domain of nobility. Imported from Byzantium and later Italy, it was expensive, delicate, and reserved for robes that announced wealth and status. For our recreation, we're focusing on worsted wool, the fiber of guild weavers, the same choice a craftsman in London or Bruges might have made. Combing the wool into aligned fibers is the first real act of craftsmanship. From there comes the spindle, a simple yet ingenious tool that turns fiber into thread. Modern spinning wheels might seem magical, but in medieval Europe, the drop spindle was the standard. A wooden shaft with a small weight. It allowed a spinner to control, twist, tension, and length with their hands alone. Spinning is more than just twisting fiber. It's a conversation. You pull a few fibers away from the mass, letting intuition guide your hands, feeling the fibers respond. Too few and the thread snaps. Too many and it becomes lumpy. This rhythm of drafting, twisting, and winding creates a yarn with life. Machines today can produce perfectly uniform thread, but the soul of hand-spun yarn lies in its subtle irregularities. These variations, once considered flaws, were actually prized. They gave fabric character, a living texture. Twist direction mattered too. Clockwise for a Z twist, counterclockwise for an S twist. And when single threads were plied together, opposing twists balanced each other, creating a strong, stable yarn. Every decision, every movement, depended on an intimate understanding of the fiber. Hours, days, even weeks went into producing just enough yarn for a single tunic. It's slow, but it's this slowness that allows knowledge and care to embed into every thread. Once the yarn is ready, it meets the loom. Preparing a medieval loom was no small feat. A 2-meter piece of cloth with 10 threads per centimeter already meant 600 threads for the width alone. Each had to be measured, stretched, and threaded with perfect order through heddles and a reed. Mistakes here could undo days of work. The looms, treadles, and heddles allowed a single weaver to lift hundreds of threads simultaneously, transforming months of preparation into rhythmic creation. Weaving itself is almost hypnotic. Foot pedals lift certain threads to create a shed, a triangular opening. The shuttle passes the weft through. The beater presses it firmly against the previous row. Shed, pick, beat. Shed, pick, beat. Each movement is precise, yet flexible, responsive to the yarn's subtle variations. Unlike a modern machine, the weaver can feel the thread, adjusting tension and beat for every irregularity. This human responsiveness gives medieval textiles a quality no automated loom can replicate: a natural rhythm, a living texture, a resilience born from dialogue with the material. Even in this early stage, patterns emerge. Simple plain weave forms a sturdy base, but twill, herringbone, and diamond patterns were common, chosen not just for decoration, but for strength and flexibility. Medieval weavers knew their cloth intimately. They understood which patterns held up to wear, which draped elegantly, and which provided durability. Every choice was deliberate. And as the first meters of cloth grow, the magic of medieval craftsmanship becomes visible. It's not just thread on a loom. It's centuries of knowledge embedded into the way fibers align, twist, and interact. A simple piece of cloth begins to carry the soul of its maker, the rhythm of countless generations, and the story of a craft that refuses to be rushed. Now that our cloth has begun to take form, it's time to breathe color and life into it. Dyeing in the High Middle Ages wasn't just a casual task, it was a complex, guarded craft. Medieval dyers were like alchemists, turning plants, roots, and minerals into vibrant textiles that could declare wealth, status, and skill. The primary European colors were red, yellow, and blue, drawn from madder root, weld, and woad. Each required patience, precise temperature, and chemical helpers, called mordants, which bonded the dyes to the fiber. A single misstep too hot, too cold, too acidic, and the color could fade, shift, or become uneven. Madder red, for example, had to be simmered gently, coaxing out the deep crimsons hidden in the roots. Blue from woad required fermentation, turning insoluble pigments into a liquid that would transform on contact with oxygen. Cloth dipped into this mysterious brew emerged pale green, only to slowly oxidize into rich, lasting indigo. Each process was time-consuming and demanded an intimate understanding of the material. Unlike today, where dyes are instant and uniform, medieval color was alive, responding to the fiber's texture, the water, the air, and the touch of the artisan's hands. But textiles weren't just about color. Protection against the elements was essential. In a world without synthetics, a cloak that didn't keep rain off could mean frostbite or illness. Here, medieval artisans relied on lanolin, the natural wax in sheep's fleece, and enhanced it with beeswax, pine resin, or animal fats to create waterproof fabrics. The application required skill. Too hot, and the fibers would shrink or become brittle. Too little, and the water resistance would fail. Warm cloth was treated by hand, massaged until every thread absorbed the mixture evenly, then left to cure. The result wasn't stiff. Rubbery fabricate was wool that still breathed, yet repelled water. Once dyed and waterproofed, the cloth underwent the final, transformative stage. Fulling. Fresh off the loom, woven wool is loose and open. Fulling tightened it, interlocking fibers into a dense, weather-resistant surface. Originally done by workers stomping cloth in tubs of water, it later evolved into water-powered fulling mills. The rhythmic pounding of massive wooden hammers became the soundtrack of cloth towns across Europe. With each beat, the fabric shrank, thickened, and gained strength until what began as delicate threads became something almost sculptural in its density. As we finish this journey from raw fleece to finished cloth, it's impossible not to appreciate the depth of knowledge embedded in every thread. This isn't just historyette, a reminder of what we can learn when we slow down, pay attention, and allow human skill to guide the creation of things meant to last. If this exploration into medieval craftsmanship fascinated you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What other lost techniques do you wish we could revive? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Prehistoric Medievals there. A whole world of forgotten skills waiting to be rediscovered, and we'll be uncovering them together, one piece of history at a time.